I'm Nancy Kaufman, and I'm the archivist for the stills, posters, and paper collections in the Moving Image Department and co-curator of this exhibition. One thing that really excites me about this exhibition is just the mere fact of it. We are showing a lot of very large posters that have been folded up in drawers for many years, decades even. And as the archivist who's in charge of these collections, even I haven't seen what a lot of them look like, so it was very exciting for me to lay them all out and put all the pieces together.
Hello, I'm Peter Begroff, Senior Curator of the Moving Image Department at the George Eastman Museum. Well, what excites me in this exhibition is the broad variety and diversity of topics and artistic styles that the 1960s represent in cinema and in film posters.
This year marks the 75th anniversary of the museum, and this is one of two very large exhibitions from the collections that we are celebrating this year in 2024.
I think that the 1960s was one of the most exciting and productive periods in the history of cinema. Our goal was to show as broad a variety as possible. We're looking for extremes. And it was fascinating to find out that the Eastman Museum's collection actually is very representative. So when we looked at everything, we selected things that, first of all, quite frankly, were interesting from the graphic perspective, but also because of the topics, because many subjects were completely taboo before that.
One thing we're trying to convey in this exhibition with this selection of posters are the many changes that are happening in the 60s, political and cultural changes throughout the world, which are reflected in films as well as the posters that are advertising them.
I'm Taina Meller, conservator in charge.
I'm Emily Phoenix, and I'm a conservation associate.
In conservation, our main responsibility is to take care of the museum's amazing collections, and that includes preparing objects for exhibitions, making sure that they are in such condition that it is safe to display them.
The posters in the exhibition were originally created for short-term use. Because they were produced as ephemeral objects, they were only meant to last for a few weeks, not decades. And that's reflected in the kind of paper they were made from and how they were handled. Because of their large size, most of the posters were folded when they were acquired by the museum. Once the posters for the exhibition had been selected, Taina, our former colleague Sarah Casto, and I began to clean, humidify, and flatten the posters. Once we'd reduced those heavy creases, we could really see the condition of the posters much more clearly.
So, flattening the posters allowed us to get a better understanding of the physical damages that needed our attention. There were lots of tears that we mended, there were lots of creases and cracks and just worn out areas that we reinforced, and there were also areas of losses that we made infills for. These damages were typically along the edges of the posters and along their fold lines, which makes sense because those are the areas that are especially prone to handling related damages and just general wear. In conservation, our main focus is always on stabilizing treatments, such as mending tears. However, there were quite a few posters that had visually disturbing image losses, and in those cases we did do some in-painting using watercolors. To prepare the posters for mounting and framing, we applied Japanese paper hinges along their top edges. Now, many of the posters are large and composed of multiple sections, so we did apply hinges also between the sections to hold them together in registration.
Definitely a challenge with these posters has been the scale. To accommodate working on them, we've had to rearrange furniture and spread out into nearby spaces. Just handling and moving them around safely has been a challenge and has definitely required a lot of teamwork.
I'm David Russo, and I'm the head preparator. I coordinate the preparation of our collection materials for exhibitions and loans. and manage our gallery installations. For this exhibition, we created custom mats and frames for many of the smaller posters. For posters that were too large to frame, we needed to come up with another solution. We settled on creating custom wall mounts. Our goal with each mount was to add structural support for the poster without being visually invasive or distracting. When it was time for installation, we used these mounts to carefully line up the registration of individual sheets to create the full poster. Because these larger works were not framed, we also placed protective barriers in front as a gentle reminder to our guests to look but not touch. Finally, labels containing identifying information about each poster were added, and a final lighting check was done to ensure the posters were lit at the recommended light levels. If not controlled, excessive light exposure would cause the posters to fade over time. From all of us who worked on Crashing into the 60s, we hope you enjoy this exhibition.